Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's we'll be reviewing the Ford Expedition Platinum. This one is the standard version. It's not the Max like the first one that we reviewed, so check it out in today's video. Before we get in this video, I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to the Larry H. Miller Ford here in Draper for giving me some time with this Expedition. Link to their website in the description down below. If you have any questions, just ask for Scott. Also got a link to my car buying guide. Let's get into it. Under the hood, we have a twin-turbo 3.5-liter V6 that goes through a 10-speed. Fuel economy is 15 around 10, 22 on the highway, with power outputs being 400 horsepower and then 480 pound-feet of torque. Before I move forward with this review, I do want to mention if you want to see more videos just like this, then I recommend you subscribe because I post content every single day. And I've got the Expedition logo there, front and center, all blacked out, which contrasts very nicely with the white paint on this one. And then you have the C-shaped headlight design, and notice how that kind of bleeds into the grille. Pretty cool looking. Blacked out Ford logo with this. Parking sensors on the front end too. Tire and wheel setup is 275 by 50 by 22, and the wheels are all blacked out with this particular one. Power running boards also blacked out, and then all the trim around the windows. And the proportions on this are a lot nicer than the Max. Now this leads us to the key fob. We got the Ford logo there on the back, your lock and unlock function, remote start. We got the opening for the hatch as well. And this has a new tailgate system, so definitely a nice feature. My wife and I have it on our 200 series Land Cruiser and we love it. Now you'll notice with the second row you can lower it down. With the third row you can raise and lower it via power. And then speaking of power, we've got some outlets here in the back. Now you don't have a ton of space behind the third row. Again, this is Tahoe sized, but it's still practical for many families. And it is all power, so just press that and it'll close the system all together. Now you can see here with the taillight design, you got the light there on the hatch itself, which is interesting. And then the two-tone design back here, I'm still not sold on it. It definitely looks unique, but let me know what you guys think of it. This leads us into the passenger cabin. Now the Platinum's gonna give you nicer trim up top. You can see down below as well. And this is cool, that trim. And then nicer trim on these seats too, which I accidentally pressed the button, but yeah, that's the button you use to push the seat forward to access the third row. Now you note with the third row, the seats are actually really nice. Look at that with the trim. And third row passengers, just like a Tahoe, have plenty of legroom. And you can also adjust their seats. And a big part of the reason why they do is because, let me pop underneath here so I can show you guys, we've got independent suspension in the rear, which creates more space in the floor here. Legroom in the second row is solid. Got a little storage pocket here, USB port, cup holders there. We've got our own climate zone, heated seats as well. And then headroom with the boxy design is good. Now this leads us up front where we've got more of the soft touch and stitching. You'll note all the windows are automatic, which is a nice feature to have. The mirrors power fold in. We've got blind spot monitoring with the mirrors. Payload capacity on this is 1360. And then we've got the nice Platinum logo up top. You can see the seats perforated all down the center portion. Power adjustments there on the side. And then we have our drive mode select here. We also have our drive line. This does have a 2-speed transfer case as well as 4-wheel auto, so it has everything that you'd want from that perspective. And let's pop it on. Whoa. Ford logo there on the steering wheel, and we have an interesting setup. So you can see the cruise controls on the one side, and then this is actually to adjust different items within the Expedition. Like if you want to adjust the steering wheel up and down, you do it with the little keypad system here. Yeah, so definitely something to get used to. And here's kind of a look at the whole steering wheel. Interesting shape. And speaking of interesting, we've got this giant digital screen up top. So the first part is your normal gauge cluster, shows you fuel range, your speed and all of that. The second part, you can customize what is in that screen. Right now it has navigation, but you can change it to radio, whatever you want. So it's kind of like a, not quite like an infotainment system, but it is basically a secondary information screen, but for fun stuff, I suppose, or important stuff like navigation. Now with the infotainment system, we've got our 360 camera, good resolution with the whole screen. And pretty much everything's controlled in these screens. So for example, your heated and ventilated seat function is controlled within the screen. Now it's a good thing this is quick to respond and all that, but something to note, Well, if for some reason the screen stops working, then yeah. Now this is what I was talking about. So you press this, and that'll change what shows in that screen depending on what you have selected there. But easy to use. I miss physical buttons though. Lots of nice stitching and everything all across the dash to make the Platinum feel a little bit more upscale. And then we've got analog controls here for the radio, your auto stop start, your parking assist. You can see for the camera function, hill descent, stability. And then yes, we do have a dial shifter. You can select the gears there right next to it too, manually. Got your Pro trailer, which is right next to the phone charging pad, and a couple USB ports. Some cup holders there. And then this does move via power. Another thing that could go wrong in the future, who knows. But yeah, there's tons of storage down below, which is nice. Wait a second. Ford Motor Company. That's funny. They have that there. This is just overly complicated. It's cool though. Now you think that the handle would be somewhere in the center. It's actually on the side for the center console, but it's massive. There's a 12 volt inside, which is nice. Regular rear view mirror, and then this has a big old sunroof. So here's our window sticker for this Expedition Platinum with the 3.5. Anyways, $80,700 is the total MSRP after all options on this one. And see how it performs. Well, got to adjust the steering wheel, so press that, press that. What is that, 3 steps to do something that if they just put a button on the side? I will be a little bit critical of that, because in General Motors is doing the same thing. It's like the American automakers are like in a pact with each other and saying, you know what, let us together get rid of as many physical buttons as we can so that people have to use the screen for pretty much everything, or have to use a multi-function button for pretty much everything. And you know, we all know that what it comes down to is cost cutting, because, I mean, let me know if I'm wrong, but if you make the argument that it makes the experience better, like, I don't know how it makes the experience better. Like, being able to just boop, boop, up and down with the steering wheel is way better than having to do this, click in, and then like the pedals too. Now I gotta get down, there we go, I made it down, click in, instead of just a button on the side. Like, I don't know how that makes, like, I understand it makes the interior less jumbled with stuff, but I don't know about making the experience any better. Now, something that is really good about the experience is actually the steering, surprisingly. So this is my second time now driving one of these, and I actually like the steering. It feels very similar to the Lincoln Nautilus, and the steering wheel is like the same shape. Also, turn signal camera is pretty cool. But yeah, it feels very similar to the Lincoln Nautilus. So, huh. Yeah, it's just a little bit of a different thing, but I would say it's not difficult to get used to at all. I think it's just fine. Suspension's pretty comfortable too. This is truck-based, right? This is body on frame with independent suspension front and rear, which the independent suspension helps out quite a bit. I don't know why, this is my take, I don't know why anyone does anything but independent suspension with these big full-size SUVs if it's supposed to be a people mover. And I'm kind of pointing at Toyota with the new Sequoia, because having independent suspension means you got more space and a comfortable ride, and especially for the rear passengers. My wife and I were kind of talking about this the other day. My wife's been driving a Sequoia that is the previous gen that has independent suspension all around, and whenever anyone's in the back, there's no complaints. And then we have a Land Cruiser that has a solid rear axle, and when people are in the back, they actually complain about the ride because you got the axle moving around. They actually do complain about the ride, whereas up front it feels fine. As I was saying, I think for these big SUVs, it makes the most sense to have them independent suspension, unless the manufacturer plans on having it be a dedicated off-roader, which, yeah, they do have a Timberline version. But even if, excuse me, even if you make a dedicated off-roader version of this, it's okay if it has independent suspension, because the wheelbase is so long that it doesn't actually need to articulate as much as a shorter wheelbase vehicle. Something that I've discovered with our Sequoia that has the independent suspension all around is doesn't have to articulate all that much, actually, which is I don't know, I think kind of a nice thing to experience. So with that being said, let's get over here so we can get a little acceleration. Yeah, the torque's great. The high output, it's hard to really tell a difference. They both have really good power. Maybe on the top end, you'd be able to kind of perceive the difference. But just kind of tooting around, this feels like it's got more than enough torque and power and everything. In summary, the new Expedition, the short version, it's a nice vehicle. This Platinum package, it ain't cheap by any means, but you know, $80,000, you compare that to a lot of the competition and it's kind of right there in line price-wise with what this offers in terms of features. I'm interested to see the Timberline package and some of the lower down packages. Like I want to see like an XLT and see kind of how that, where that ends up being, you know, what dealers actually end up ordering price-wise, and you know, kind of the features that has. But let me know what you guys think about the new Expedition. I think the new tailgate's cool. I'm definitely not sold on the screens. I really do hope that this is just a fad in the car industry and that this goes away, doing massive screens, because it just, yeah, it seems like overkill to me.